Good afternoon and welcome to the Traditional Online Training. We put this together to help you become successful in the training traditional online classroom. It has a unique population we want to make you aware of. Before I begin, I want to introduce our presenters. My name is Teresa Burke and I'm a faculty specialist assigned to the Colangelo College of Business, and I support both ground and online faculty. I've been at GCU 20 years, I can't believe that. And I've also taught traditional online courses, so I'm definitely familiar with its requirements that it has. Mike?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Stella. I'm a faculty specialist and I work with the College of Engineering and Technology primarily, along with the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. I am a relative newbie here compared to Teresa with only 9 years with GCU. I also teach courses in cyber policy and American government for us in all three of our modalities.
Thank you, Mike. We also have Laura Mueller and Jennifer O'Connor, our faculty specialists, who will be taking care of the chat and putting links in there as resources for you. So we definitely welcome their assistance with this. We couldn't do it without them. So thank you, Laura and Jennifer, ahead of time. All right. So we're going to start here with a little bit of scripture. I'm just going to go ahead and let you read this. And when you're done reading it, I want you to post in the chat, what does this mean to you in the context of being an instructor? Jennifer, do we have anything in there in the chat?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We have the seeds that you plant will bear fruit.
Good.
Do not give up. Keep going. It's all good. Continue giving your best effort, knowing the good will pay off. Continue to be supportive to students.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I guess when I read this personally, what I was looking at is since TO courses are 16 weeks long, we can become weary. However, it's also rewarding to know that we're helping these students succeed. So that's my personal take on that scripture. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide here to our objectives. Okay, so before we kind of go into these objectives, I want to get a feel of how many of you have taught traditional online courses before. Go ahead and post in the chat and let us know what your experience
Want
has
to, but
been.
I don't know how.
It seems like a lot of the instructors have been teaching online.
Okay, good. Good. And even if you've taught before, there's always something new to learn. And that's what I have found. No matter how long you've been doing something, there's always something new or different that you weren't aware of. So we welcome you. You know, this is a good, like I said, something new to learn and a good refresher as well. So we definitely appreciate you, spending your time with us this afternoon. So our objectives, you can see what we're looking at today is we're going to first look at the needs of this population because they are a unique demographic of students. We're going to be refreshed on those teaching requirements, just like I was saying. This is a good refresher and tips and tricks on creating an online presence. Okay, Mike.
Thank you, Teresa. I am not going to read through this whole slide, but I would appreciate if you could all look at it while I'm talking here because we have four foundational principles of effective teaching and learning at GCU, focusing on engagement, responsiveness, feedback, and classroom management. Certainly don't expect you to memorize all these concepts, but we do want you to have a general grasp of these areas because we're going to touch on them throughout this training. And of course, these are things that we want to do within our classes to create a constructive learning environment for our students and help to build relationships with them over time. So as we move forward on that, I'm going to talk to you about a scenario here. On
What?
slide 5, we can move forward. Thank you. So here on slide 5, we have two sets of students. On the left, we have a classroom environment with an instructor leading a discussion with their students. And on the right, we have a student sitting at home, presumably, or in their dorm on their computer. The left being the traditional environment, the right being an example of a student working in a traditional online environment. What we'd like to know from all of you in the chat is what are the differences between these two experiences from the student perspective? And why do they matter?
I think everybody's just thinking, no post yet.
That's okay. We'll wait.
So there's less peer engagement or direct feedback online. One has peer pressure to pay attention, the other does not. Classrooms can feel more collaborative, supportive. Online can feel distant.
Mhm.
Real-time feedback and engagement with instructors and peers.
Right.
For many
Great.
students, an online course allows them to work and stay enrolled. Traditional engagement with other scholarly learners.
Those are all great. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I think the two big things we want to consider here is how can we make the students in the traditional online environment feel that same sense of camaraderie that they're going to have in the classroom environment? And, that's both the opportunity and the challenge for us as faculty. How do we make them feel comfortable? And most importantly, how do we make them feel as if we're looking out for them, for our students, and making them feel that they're in an inclusive environment. And that's what we're going to talk about as we move forward here throughout our presentation. Um, with that said, there's some things we need to think about here on the next slide regarding the demographics of this student population. First and foremost, TO students, traditional online students, are ground students. These are students that are attending classes here in Phoenix. In most cases, they live on campus as well. They're used to participating directly with their peers, with their instructors in person. And for that reason, their comfort level might be minimal with the online environment. Now, before we got started today, we were talking about how many things have changed with students, especially since the pandemic, with the impacts of COVID. And that may be less of a factor to a degree. Many students might be accustomed to doing online classes, but at the same time, we can't assume that. And with that in mind, we need to assume that they're going to need more attention in the online TO environment than they might need in a face-to-face class. That may require us to maybe reach out a little bit more, ask probing questions and find out what kind of support we can provide to students. And that ties into my final point here, which is that don't assume these students just know the drill of being in an online class. They may not know how to participate. They may not know how to hold themselves accountable for getting assignments in on time. They may not even know how to post responses in there. It's unlikely with the rise of social media, but when you're getting started, as Teresa's going to mention here in just a moment, make sure you're setting clear expectations for your students and you're giving them guidelines that they can follow to help set them up for success. Teresa?
Thank you, Mike. Just to kind of piggyback on what Mike was talking about, we're going to talk a little bit about announcements. And you want to have a welcome announcement. You see everything that I've kind of included in there. What you want to do is put as much information as possible. Just like what Mike was saying, we don't want to assume they know where to go, where to click. One thing that I have found in teaching the TO courses is the ground students have difficulty in meeting that participation requirement because they're used to meeting that requirement in class. They don't understand, having to respond to their classmates. So what I like to do is kind of put a schedule on how they can meet that participation requirement. Monday, respond to DQ1 and just on and on and on like that. And that kind of gives them something to kind of go by in meeting that participation requirement. It's a best practice to post an announcement each week. I usually do that anyway. You can include a picture in your classroom announcement. You can do that in your classroom introduction, and that kind of helps, build a, sense of community, and they can kind of see how you look like. And one thing to, I guess, also keep in mind about the announcements is that that's a student's first impression of you. They're not seeing you or hearing you for the most part. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as far as your tone, how you come across. You want to put as many resources as possible, like I was mentioning. So we've got ACE, very comprehensive website. You can go in there and we're going to be putting some links in the chat on if they support the course that you're teaching. We also have the Halo test drive, and that's really good for students that are not too familiar with Halo. And you can kind of go in there and see, how everything works. And of course, you got the Student Success Center. One thing I do want to mention also is a lot of us are not familiar with Thinking Storm. And what that is, it's an external tutoring service. And GCU provides 5 free sessions for students. After that, of course, they have to pay out of pocket. But the 5 free sessions is something that, might be attractive to students as far as they're needing just a little bit of help in a course. So we're also going to put that link in there. If your course includes a course material like maybe Connect, MindTap, you want to include that information in there as well. So they're familiar in what they need to do to kind of, do their assignments and quizzes and things like that.
Teresa, a quick question. Is
Sure.
it 5 free hours or 5 times the Thinking Storm?
5 hours. It's
5 hours.
Yes. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. All right, contact information. If you have updated your faculty profile, your email is going to come up automatically in the Halo classroom. As far as you don't have to post your phone number. That's a best practice. You want to make yourself available to meet with students. If you are local, you can try meeting them, face to face. You can try doing Zoom meetings with them. And then one thing we want to kind of keep in mind as well is in communications in the Halo classroom, we want to keep that there. If they email you, if you have a Zoom meeting or a phone call, we want to make sure we document that information in the Halo classroom by going into the message section and selecting their name and summarizing what you spoke about. Now, like the announcements and the contact information also support that foundational principle of classroom setup. So we want to kind of keep that in mind. I know that Mike kind of spoke about that a little bit as far as the foundational principles, how we're going to kind of do that in each section. So we want to kind of document those Zoom calls. And this is all kind of falls on the classroom management. And, you can also put your contact information in your announcements. So we can do that. I know a lot of faculty also like putting that in the discussion forum, for students to kind of take a look at so they're familiar with what needs to be done and how to contact you. Do we have any questions on that?
No questions in the chat.
Okay, all right. We're moving right along. Okay, now what I want to do first is explain what this chart means. Okay, the messages to 7 and 7 and class questions 7 and 7, basically that means 7 days out of 7 days. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do something on 7 days. It means that you will check for messages, every day of that week. You want to check for messages. You want to go into, the message section or the class questions. One thing I have found sometimes is that because ground students are used to, talking to their instructor in the class, what they might do is reach out in the class questions regarding a personal matter or their grade. So you want to kind of redirect them over to the message section. They may not understand the difference between the message section being a private forum and the class questions being a forum for all of the students to post in. So that's what explains that. Now, the discussion or the teaching forum, this is equivalent to when faculty are teaching in the ground classroom and they're in front of the class and they're basically lecturing, asking the students questions. That's what this is equivalent to. So the minimum requirement is to have 2 substantive posts on each of the 4 days. And Mike's kind of go over a little bit of what we consider a substantive post for faculty. Now, in reviewing these sections, why do you think they're important in creating a classroom presence? Go ahead and post in the chat.
We have to keep engagement, clarification,
Mhm. Yeah, we want to, as far as like, participating, we want to kind of set that example for the students to follow. So, if you have a very engaged class, you want to kind of, take that lead and, put things in there for them to respond to. And what we're looking at here in the responsiveness and the engagement, as far as those foundational principles that Mike talked about, at the beginning of our training.
Teresa, we just have one question. Can you
Yes.
please clarify again how many post responses we as instructors have to do again? I was told it's 2%, so I'm doing 16 a week.
Oh, wow. There's not a set percentage. What we're looking at is the minimum is 2 posts on each of the 4 days, 2 substantive posts. Now, again, you got to keep in mind this is the minimum, so you're more than welcome to exceed that. And we have to kind of go by, I guess, the how active the class is, how big the class is. As you know, each class has a different personality. Some are very active, some are not so active. And even with the ones that are not active, of course, we want to kind of try to make them more active. So, as far as a percentage, we're not looking for a percentage. Hopefully that answers your question.
And Teresa, I just wanted to bring up a good point that Stephen made. He said to make sure there is no hesitation on asking questions, and that's why we should be present in the classroom. Thought that was a good point.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, you want to, with the online format, like we were, mentioning, they don't see you or hear you. Um, and we don't want the students to feel alone. So it's definitely important to show that you're engaged in the classroom and show that you're, you know, caring about what is going on in that class. Okay, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna go to the next one here. And I love this. Thank you, Christina. She put this little LOPE chart for us, and it just kind of goes over what we just talked about. The 7 out of 7 days, the 4 out of 7, and it just shows what we're looking at as far as, checking the classroom and posting in the classroom. Okay. All right, we're gonna go to our next slide here that Mike is gonna cover.
Yes, thank you, Teresa. I'm going to get into some of the nuts and bolts of substantive participation at this point. So, to get started, we're going to talk about what makes a discussion post-substantive. And what it really comes down to, and we'll get into more detail in this in a moment where you'll be able to interact with me a little bit on this, is knowing your ABCs. And many of you might remember from training, the initial faculty training we do, we talk about this, where, starting with the A, acknowledging what students said and supporting it, maybe with outside resources or insights and redirecting if needed. If students start to get off track a little bit in a discussion, trying to get them back on track at that point. Second is building on it. B, which is, like I mentioned previously, bringing in some of your personal insights, bringing in some outside research, current events. For example, in my government courses I teach, there's plenty from current events that I can pull into the class to cover concepts we're going through each week. And then finally, after you've kind of built your students up a little bit, you've brought some new insights in, ideally, you want to close with an open-ended follow-up question for further consideration. This serves two purposes. One, it helps to extend the discussion, especially towards the end of the week when students have done all their initial DQ responses. It helps to build on that and extend it further, but also it gives students an opportunity to earn participation credit. Because in addition to our posts we need to do each week, they need to do their postings as well to earn substantive credit and earn points for that aspect of their grade. So we know the basics now, but let's get into more of the details of implementing this ABC method. So what I'd like you all to do is take a moment to look at this chart that shows a variety of facilitation techniques, things like I mentioned earlier, asking open-ended questions, applying Bloom's taxonomy, using Socratic reasoning with students, bringing in multimedia resources. Take a look at this chart and then in the chat, share with us which of these techniques you have used or will use in your classes, along with any other techniques you might want to share with the group.
Asking open-ended questions,
Yeah, that's one of the best ways to facilitate discussion with our students.
personal
Take a moment.
experiences,
Hmm,
real-world scenarios,
great.
relating professional experience, using classroom assessment techniques.
These are all excellent. And I think that's one that, in my experience, having reviewed a lot of classes, I think Teresa can attest to this as well. We want to see our faculty bring in a lot of personal experiences into the classroom
We have
and show
professional, oh,
students.
sorry, Mike, I didn't mean
Oh,
to
I'm sorry. Go
interrupt.
ahead. I'm talking
Professional
to you.
articles. I try to include weekly news related to the topic.
Excellent. Yeah, these are all awesome.
Relating the student's opinion to real world example experiences in the field.
Excellent. Yeah, I think, and it's interesting, everybody has different perspectives, but I think at the end of the day, knowing these techniques that are out there and the different approaches we can use to facilitate discussion just makes it that much easier to get that minimum of 8 posts in each week. But like Teresa mentioned, that's a minimum. If you want to do more, by all means, you're just going to create a more robust learning experience for your students. These are awesome. Thank you all. Moving on at this point, I want to do some scenarios with all of you and get some practice in here. So please take a moment to review this posting to our student Jenny from the instructor and share with us in the chat whether or not you think this post is substantive, along with your reasoning for why or why not it is. Do we have anything, Jen? Are they still
Nope.
thinking?
Still thinking. While they're
Okay.
while they're still thinking, Mike, just to add on to what I do in the discussion forum,
Mhm.
I like to add videos so my students can see. I teach for the College of Education, and if we're talking about a teaching method, I want them to see what it looks like in the classroom. So I'll post a video to help them see how it's used in the field.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's something we're going to talk about in just a bit. And that's a great reminder, to be creative.
A lot
Students
of
notice it.
our instructors are saying yes, that is a substantive post. It causes the student to expand original thought. It can build on.
Perfect. Yeah, this, I can honestly say, if this is what you do, you're going to make us all very happy in our own roles when we see this in the classroom. It makes our job easier, and it's going to lead to your students really enjoying being in your class. You have any other feedback, Jen?
It's a good one. It follows the ABC approach. Yes, because it acknowledges, builds, and adds on.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. All right, so of course, this is the good post. You know what's coming next. Teresa, next slide. What do we all think of this in-depth post? And I'll add to this, how might you improve it? Share with us in the chat, please.
It's nice, but it doesn't encourage further thinking. It's not specific. It's not substantive. What points was excellent? No open-ended question. Missing all the ABCs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think they acknowledge the student, but if I were the student, I'd be like, thanks, but why?
This is a good one. It stops the conversation instead of continuing the discussion, which is so
I,
true.
that is an excellent observation, and that ties in exactly. You have to do those 8 posts a week. Let's make them worthwhile. Let's give students something to take away from them. This is great. Thank you all. Is there any other good insights, Jen, or are we
The
good?
post doesn't point out what was good about the student's post. And
Ooh.
then it said it didn't meet a word requirement.
Now that's an interesting point right there. We don't have a specific word requirement, but one bit of advice I give to all my faculty is if you set a word count for your students for a discussion question response or a substantive response, try to meet it yourself. Set a good example for them. Because think about it from the student's perspective. If you're asking for 100 words from them and you give back 20, it's probably going to bother them a little bit. Perfect. Thank you all. So next slide, we're going to talk about how these actions that we do, trying to create an inclusive, warm, engaging learning environment, makes a difference for students. And this is the feedback we've gotten from them. We do those end of course surveys, or we have the students do the end of course surveys at the end of every class. And we wanted to highlight some of the really positive feedback we've gotten from students in the past, especially in this TO environment. First one being, we talked about engagement being a core principle at GCU. Right there, most engaged online teacher I've ever had. I wasn't confused. Everything was clear. And most importantly, they were quick to respond to students. Said, there is a 24-hour, as Teresa mentioned, 24-hour turnaround required on inquiries. But if we could do that faster, that's just going to make the students feel that much more supported. Another example here, they got back to them in a reasonable manner, like I mentioned, but they stayed on top of grading the work and giving feedback that's helpful. We have 7 days from the time of submission to return feedback to students. But it's not just about getting it back to them in a timely manner. We want to give them feedback that gives them something they can take from it and expand upon and improve upon as they go further into the course. And not to mention, as this third point shows, when we give good feedback to students, when we give prompt and in-depth responses, it shows that we're experts in our field and that we want to help them prepare for the future. All those insights, those different facilitation techniques we use, students notice that. And they appreciate our knowledge. They appreciate our efforts to help set them up for success. Teresa?
Thank you, Mike. And one thing I wanted to add too is, I know we talked about the 24-hour turnaround. If you receive a question that you're not clear what the answer is, that's okay. Just let the student know that you're going to be looking into it. And then you can definitely check with our department and we're here to, support you and help you with that. So it's okay if you don't have the answer right away. Sometimes we do get those type of questions that we need to kind of look into a little more. And as far as the feedback and keeping up with the feedback, later on we'll kind of talk a little bit about that work list tab in Halo that kind of helps you keep up with the early submissions and the submissions that students submit.
I'm a faculty training and development for Grand Canyon University. I'm not available to take your call right now, but
Okay, so incorporating the Christian worldview, you can kind of see the different methods there in incorporating it. How do you integrate faith in the classroom? Feel free to post that in the chat so we can, talk about that a little bit.
We have weekly classroom assessment techniques. I usually do a weekly blessing announcement.
Perfect. I like putting scriptures in my announcements. I've seen faculty, like even in accounting, talk about ethics in the discussions. It's, very interesting to see the different ways that faculty do integrate that. And we will be posting in the chat the foundational, website that kind of gives you a little more information on how to support that. And of course, this goes into supporting that foundational principle of classroom management. Are there any other posts
A
there?
prayer forum, including scripture in announcements and in the discussion forum.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to show you an example. Do we have any other questions before I go to the next slide?
No questions.
Okay. All right, and here's an example. There's, like I said, and you can even, I think, sometimes a chapel, I think there is a link to the chapel. I think I've seen it in YouTube. So you can also do that too, is post that. So here's an example of Christian worldview. Any other thoughts?
I post a Bible verse every other week.
Okay. All right. Okay, now we're going to talk about some interesting things that Mike's going to share with us.
All right, so we already touched upon this a moment ago. Jen brought up a really good point about this, but this is one of my favorite topics because it's so easy when we're teaching to get into a routine. Going through our checkbox, are we posting announcements? Are we posting our participation? Are we doing feedback in a timely manner? But I want to talk a moment about having some fun in the classroom. Let's think outside the box a little bit. Let's try some techniques, some different facilitation techniques like Jed mentioned about creating videos for students, doing things like Animoto or creating a Loom video at the start of the week, or creating a video that walks them through an assignment that we can post to YouTube. Emojis, another big one where we can maybe put a happy face at the end of a response to a student's question. Not sure I would use the cat one, but certainly do that as well. And holding Zooms with students. A lot of my faculty in the College of Engineering Technology will hold weekly or monthly Zooms with their students, almost like a study hall where they can ask questions and gain insights from each other or put supplemental resources either in the classroom or perhaps through a Padlet. And then finally, there's Poll Everywhere, which is primarily used on
California
our
State Teachers Retirement System.
traditional courses, but can also be used in an online environment. So my question to all of you, I'd like you to reflect upon for a moment and answer us in the chat is, what have you used in your own classes, or what would you like to use in your own classes to add that little bit of extra value to the student experience and maybe put your own personal touch?
I have a professor in college that started off every class with a motivational video related to what we were learning, and I loved it. It gets you ready.
Awesome.
I do weekly videos in the announcements.
Okay.
I've used Zoom for class check-ins and Loom for videos. Loom's in the announcements.
Well, this is great. I'm glad to see everybody's already using these resources.
I've used Poll Everywhere in my traditional class.
Excellent. And I want to state as well, thank you all for sharing that. If you're not sure, I think a lot of us can get nervous, if not a bit anxious, about trying to integrate these resources into our classes, especially if you're not comfortable with being in front of the camera. If you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to your faculty specialist with your college. You know, I would like to elect Jen as our expert, at least with Loom and with making videos, but any of us can help you out with this. We all learn from each other. We'd love to impart that information out to all of you as well. So thank you, everyone. Teresa, next slide. We're gonna.
Okay, I just do want to
Oh,
add
I think we
too,
have.
like in your class intro, you can put a video of yourself so they can see you
Mhm.
and invite the students to do the same since they're used to kind of seeing each other. That's just a thought. You can do that as
Jen, did
well.
I see a question come in?
Yep. I was going to answer it in the chat, but the
Oh,
question
okay. I'm
is
sorry.
regarding students' class participation, is there a minimum number of responses to peers per discussion for each student?
No, there's not actually. We ideally want to talk to each student. We want to try to touch base with every student throughout the week, but there's not a minimum expectation. It's more about creating engagement with them, similar to what we're trying to do through resources like this. I'm sorry, I should have tried to address that this way. My apologies. Um, so going on though, the next area we want to talk about a little bit is the use of artificial intelligence in the classroom and how we can effectively guide students with this. Now, I know we could probably have an entire session just talking about this topic alone. In place of that, what we'd like to do is share with you our AI policy, which they're going to post in the chat. And we strongly recommend that you review in your own time. If you have any questions or if you have any concerns with how to implement this, feel free to reach out to us on an individual basis. I can tell you from experience, having taught classes where students have used AI, we have to kind of find that balance between using it as an effective tool for students while at the same time setting boundaries. But we will be happy to address that with you on a one-on-one basis if you have any concerns outside of this workshop. Teresa,
Thank you, Mike.
thank you.
Okay, as we wrap everything up, take a look at the Thunder's Secret to Success in the Classroom. So this is kind of like a nice little overview as a reference to kind of help us kind of stay on track. And we talked about the messages and the class questions. The work list is a tab on the left-hand side of Halo where you have the drop down. And what I really like about that is that it shows the student submissions. And, if you have Mary that submitted that week 1 assignment early, Mary will probably be submitting all the assignments early throughout the whole class. So I love this feature. I look at it every time I go in the classroom. Just like we check for messages, I check that work list to see if there's any assignments that need to be graded. Then, of course, you have things that you do on a weekly basis, making sure you're engaged in that discussion forum, using that ABC method that Mike talked about and the variety facilitation techniques. And then, of course, there's a little bit of the overtime, grade assignments within 7 days of submission, if possible earlier, because you do have a lot of assignments, of course, that build on each other. And the sooner the students get that feedback, the sooner they know how to improve for that next assignment. You want to make sure you're present in that teaching forum and review your grammar and spell check on a regular basis. I know we talked about being the leader of your classroom and, providing that example. We talked about word count in the discussions. If you are requiring the students to use a reference in their postings, make sure that you do the same. So you always want to set that example on whatever you are requiring the students to do. And that way they can kind of, follow your lead. So as you take a look at, these resources, these little checklists here, do you have any additional thoughts of what can make your teaching more effective and enjoyable? Go ahead and feel free and post in the chat.
Hey, Teresa, a lot of questions are coming in about will they be able to have a recording of this presentation and the links that Laura shared in the chat, if they will be able to get a copy of that.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. And I encourage if you see the links in the chat, you can go ahead and, copy and paste them as you see them come in. But yes, we can definitely share that.
And then we have a question, are there any resources for engaging and effective classroom assessment techniques?
Yeah, actually, we do have an on-demand. I think that was posted in the chat as well. If not, we will get that to you. But we do have an on-demand for classroom assessment techniques, and it kind of gives you some ideas on how to, support that and different ones that you can post.
And another question, I had a student who did all of week 1 and the start of week 2 here already on day 1. Should grading be done on those ahead of time or wait until it's actually the correct topic due dates?
So you had someone that kind of they're doing them early. I would go ahead and just, grade those as they come in. If I am understanding your question correctly. Because I know that they can start early, but like if you're at week 1, they can't really start things on week 2. They're not going to be able to submit anything on week 2 until that first day of week 2. Does that answer your question, or was it something that I missed?
Yes, it answered it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Any other thoughts that you want to share in the chat?
Teresa, Laura posted on LinkedIn, and I just wanted to talk about that. We have
Yes.
such an exciting group of instructors that have joined LinkedIn, and we want all our instructors to join LinkedIn. We're doing so many great things with our instructors and series and competitions, and we just wrapped up one on AI, and instructors showed how they use AI in the classroom to teach their students, and it was amazing. And there were so many great ideas. I learned so much from reading all of their ideas. I posted it every week. So we would really love to have all our instructors on LinkedIn. Again, we do such fun things. I have such a lot of fun things planned for 2026. So please make sure you join our page. It's a great time to connect with other instructors and see all the amazing things that you guys are doing to help support GCU students.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I know we're posting a link in the chat for that. And Jennifer has done a tremendous job with that LinkedIn page. So when you get a chance, definitely take a peek, comment on that, and let's support our fellow faculty. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, comments? Okay, I'm going to go ahead to the next slide here. All right, so we want you to get credit for this training. There's a QR code here you can scan. A link will also be shared in the chat for you to, get credit if you cannot access the QR code. Your username and password is going to be your GCU username and password to get into that link. I'm going to leave this up for a couple of minutes and give everybody a chance to do that. And while we're getting all that done, we want to see if there's any further questions that we can address. Feel free to post in the chat.
One question is get credit in terms of what?
You're getting credit for attending this training. And what happens is it creates an event record that shows in your record that we have. So that's what you're getting credit for, that you attended this training.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too, Teresa. It can also be beneficial for if you're in the future, if you're going for rank and title with your college. It is considered professional development to attend trainings like this.
Good point, Mike. Thank you.
I know we're getting a lot of questions on the links, so we're going to leave the chat open. So if you guys want to go and just copy the links and put them on a Word document, then you'll have a whole bunch of your links just on one document. That might be great for you. We'll keep the training open so you can do that.
Any other questions or thoughts?
Teresa, I'm just thinking we have a few minutes yet. We could, before we wrap things up, we can open the lines up again if people would like to ask questions
Sure.
in person. We'd be happy to address them for you with these. We have about 11 minutes left.
Okay, let me. Okay, you should be getting something that telling you could unmute yourself and you can go ahead and, speak out and so we can collaborate a little bit more while we're getting all this wrapped up.
Or maybe we just did that great of a job covering everything.
No, this is
If you
Martha.
all want to ask us anything, feel free. Anything
Well,
related to the
I've
training.
got kind of an off-topic, which is that I'm traditional ground. I accidentally signed up for this. I've taught Zoom only classes, but I haven't done an online only class. So I was interested to see all the things about engagement and all of that. I know that in Zoom, engagement is tough. They don't always turn on their cameras like they're supposed to, et cetera. And so that could be tough. I can understand in some cases, some of them were dialing in from work, and it was privacy issue in terms of showing people in the background, but you could blur the background.
Right.
So which I told them, and they they just found it
Still kind of
easier to
hesitant.
blank the screen entirely. So
Yeah.
That's a great point, Michael. And that's why we talk about having a variety of techniques to engage with students. I typically won't do a Zoom with my online students until we've been in class. Maybe early on I'll do as an icebreaker, but I'll wait till maybe the midpoint. Once we all know each other and feel comfortable with each other and know each other's learning style before we'll have a content-based Zoom session. But that's another thing worth mentioning with online students. We can't require them to attend the Zoom. It's more of an open-ended, hey, this is an option if you'd like to interact with your peers and most importantly, interact with me. But that ties in with as well creating a welcome video so they know your face, they know who you are, and maybe feel a little more comfortable.
I was teaching when the pandemic hit and we went totally Zoom for all classes. And I had a Psych 102 class with over 80 students in it. And fortunately, I had 3 IAs. And on the Zoom session, what we did is they would post questions to chat. The IAs would answer the questions. If they didn't know the answer, they'd forward it to me. And we managed that way. So it was tough with that large a class in Zoom when we had to go totally Zoom like that in the middle of a semester.
I will just speak for all my teammates on this. We thank you for all the efforts you guys made during that crazy time. we were all in the office, and then we were all sent home basically, and was like, okay, keep doing your job, but so we were all learning on the fly, and I think it made us all better instructors, though, ultimately.
Mhm.
And as Teresa had mentioned earlier, it made our students more adept at working online as well. It's kind of sink or swim at that point.
And one thing I want to mention about the Zoom, I've seen faculty, and again, you don't have to like have like set office hours, but they have their office hours as a Zoom link. So in other words, students
Mhm.
could just drop in and ask them a question. And I thought that was really very interactive. And again, just kind of like what Mike was saying, we can't require
Mhm.
the students to attend any of the,
Mhm.
Zoom sessions. I've seen faculty kind of go over the assignment, like have a Zoom
Mhm.
session going over the assignment
Mhm.
and what they're looking for. So I think
Yeah.
that's really good.
There's software that allows students to sign up for Zoom sessions, and I don't remember what the software is, but you have a block of time that you set up that is available to them. They they go online, they sign up in advance for it, and they're there, blocked out for that block of time, 15 minutes or half an hour, whatever the blocks are you're using. But that can be real effective as the office hour kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, any other questions while
Yeah,
we're
this is Martha. I have a question. So this is my first time teaching online, and can I get just some clarification? So I know when I'm responding to the discussion questions, that's absolutely where I want to be substantive and responsive and ask an open-ended question, right?
Mhm.
And and
there
I
and in their participation post as well.
Okay. Okay. And then, so I have to do, and I asked for clarification on this, and I'm waiting for it back because last night I was talking to one of the directors that teaches for my class, and we came up with the number of 16 because I don't know how we got that, but that's 16 substantive posts responses with open-ended question a week because there's 20 students, they each do three, that's 60 discussion questions responses. Anyways, so but on the ones that I don't do those 16 and the other ones that I'm in the work list and I'm grading, I know I give a substantive response, but I don't have to do an open-ended question with those, correct? It's just a
No, and
substantive
again,
response.
I'm sorry, Mike, were you going to say something? My talking over you.
Mhm.
Um, as long as you have a good ratio of your participation compared to what the students participating is. So, you don't necessarily, especially with the TO classes, we understand they fill them up quite a bit. So you don't necessarily need to respond to each and every student on each DQ. As long as you try to cover most of them between those two or three, sometimes they have four DQs. Um, so as far as like the ratio, and you don't have to ask a question each time. That's where those variety facilitation techniques come into play and what Mike was saying. So you can do other things as far as, just making a statement, sharing your professional or personal experience. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, because it's taken me all day to come up with substantive and open-ended questions for 8. I've only done 8 so far. So yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, you
And
don't have
then
to ask a question each time.
yeah, okay. And then I did just get a response and he said it was minimum is 2 post responses per the 4 days.
That's the minimum, correct.
Yeah, okay.
But
And
again, we want to kind of look at the size of the course. So in other words, if you have a very, you want to be, I guess when I say ratio in proportion to how the class is participating as well. You might have some classes that are very active, and then you might have some classes that are not too active. But regardless, you want to kind of show that engagement, and be, the leader of the classroom as far as, showing your participation in that discussion forum.
I want
Okay.
to add something to that too. In my own experience, students are going to read everything we post. That's what their advisors tell them to do. If the instructor posts something, you read it.
Mhm.
And that's where I think it's a little dangerous when we get into it should be 16 or 24, whatever number of posts. We have 8 as a number to basically, 2 posts on 4 separate days because class sizes vary. Some classes you might have 5 students, other classes you might have 25, especially in the TO modality. But what we find is if an instructor is maintaining an active presence, but not too active, it creates opportunities for students to engage with one another, but also um, gives them something to fall back on if the discussion between them is not going effectively. And like I mentioned earlier, you start getting to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By that point, everybody's answered the DQ. That's when you need to step in and kind of revitalize the discussion, create new opportunities for students, help them wrap out the week. Because some students will want to get started early in the week, others will want to go later. And that's one of the reasons I post 2 cats every week. I'll post one early on, kind of recapping the previous week. And then at the end of the week, I'll post a summary cat where I say, hey, great discussion, everyone. A few of you mentioned this. What else can we say about this topic? You'll get to
Another
find your rhythm as you do it. I mean, after doing this for 20 years, it's second nature, but that first
Michael,
class can be a little bit challenging. So that's why
Yeah,
we wanted
it
to
is.
establish the
Thank you.
minimums for faculty.
just
Does that
wanted to
help, I
add.
hope? Oh, go ahead, Jen. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
Michael. I just wanted to add to use Mosaic, the AI tool that GCU has created to help create scenarios, create questions, help respond to students. You can use it to put your post in from your students and say, what are they missing in this topic? And it gives you such great ideas to add on, and it will help you engage faster. And it just takes that pressure off of you. So I would definitely say use it. And if you need any help with that, just give us a call and we will definitely help you with it.
Yeah, my director said she was going to send me the link. I haven't got it yet for Mosaic, so I'm waiting for that link because she
Can we
did
put that in
mention
the
that
chat?
yesterday.
Yeah.
She also told me about Google Gemini, so I've been trying to play around with that a little too to help me. So, but thank you.
Yeah,
for that.
Jennifer or Laura, if you could put that link to Mosaic. I know we don't have it maybe handy, but
It's in my class resources in my Halo. You can check there.
Oh, yeah, we just put it in the chat for you all as well.
yeah,
Yeah, if you
and,
need
and
help,
that's
again, if you need help with Mosaic, let us know. I've been using it a lot in my discussions.
Mhm.
Sometimes Mosaic makes me feel like I'm not as good as I thought I was in discussions sometimes. I've learned some new techniques from using AI. It's all
Just
about
like
using it correctly, though, and then we can set a good example for our students as well. Just be sure to cite that you used it in your posts.
I'll probably reach out to you, Michael, because yeah, I've never used it. And so it is a new tool for me. So thank you.
Yeah, we're all happy to help. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like what Mike was saying, I do the same thing. I'll put a cat towards the end of the week. That's when, the discussions start kind of dying out, have them complete a survey or, just something where it kind of gets them engaged. And, it also, of course, it adds to their participation post. But, talking about Mosaic, I've used that to it gives you ideas on your participation as well, as far as, topics that you can discuss in the participation forum.
It also creates great case scenarios or that you can have posting to your students so they can apply what they've learned to a new situation. And that really shows their learning and it really gets them talking and engaging. And they come up with, Mosaic comes up with really great ideas.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead into the next slide here.
Yes, I think we're at the end of our time
I
together,
think so.
but at the
I
same
think we're at
time,
3:01. So just like we don't want our students to feel alone, we don't want you to feel alone either. So you have a whole team here to support you. We've got our email and phone number. We're also in person in Building 23. So we just want to thank you for spending this afternoon with us. And, we hope you have found this enjoyable.
thank you, everyone.
Thank
And feel
you.
free to reach out if there's anything we can do to help beyond what we've covered here.
Thank you.